Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema has emerged as one of Big Pharma's most loyal beneficiaries as the Arizona senator continues to block her own party's plan to allow Medicare to negotiate significantly lower prescription drug prices. But not too long ago, Sinema sang a different song to the people of Arizona.
Growing up, our family struggled to make ends meet, and we didn't have health insurance. No child should go without a doctor, and no family should be bankrupted by medical bills. We need to make healthcare more affordable, with access to the lowest cost prescriptions, and fix what's broken in the system, not go back to when Arizonans had no say about their health coverage. I'm Kyrsten Sinema. I sponsor this message because every American deserves quality, affordable healthcare.
Founder of the Daily Poster and former senior advisor to Bernie Sanders, David Sirota, joins us now to discuss. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And so the New York Times described Kyrsten Sinema's approach to this legislation as inscrutable, an unusual term for the Times to put into the lead of one of its articles, but not unfair. It has been difficult to scrute where she is on some of these issues. So talk a little bit about the amount of money that Sinema has taken from the pharmaceutical industry and whether you think, or what role you think that's playing here.
Well, Ryan, it's inscrutable if the thing that you just refused to look at is the mountain of cash that you're in the shadow of, the mountain of campaign cash, right? I mean, yes, and it's hard to know why Kyrsten Sinema is behaving this way. But Kyrsten Sinema has taken lots and lots of money from the various interests that don't want the reconciliation bill to pass in general, and specifically that don't want these prescription drug provisions to pass. So Kyrsten Sinema has taken, depending on how you count it, somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000 from various pharmaceutical and related interests that do not like the idea of Medicare negotiating lower prescription drug prices. She campaigned, as you just showed, with a promise to lower prescription drug prices. This is her stance is an obvious betrayal of that. I mean, I was laughing because the ad now seems, in context and in retrospect, sort of like an SNL satire ad. Like, wow, you just went out there and said that, and now you're doing the exact opposite kind of thing. And let's be clear, it's not just the campaign cash. She is being bankrolled, her sort of political image is being bankrolled back in Arizona right now, as we reported at the Daily Poster, through ads from a group called Center Forward, which takes a lot of money from, you guessed it, the pharmaceutical industry. So in other words, those ads started right when her office started raising these objections in the Washington press to the Medicare provisions in this bill. So really, it's not inscrutable if you're willing to follow the straightest line between facts and an explanation. And the straightest line is Kyrsten Sinema is opposing a bill that her donors do not want, and she's using her position to try to kill that bill as money has flooded into her campaign and is bankrolling her political image back home.
And if we stick with Sinema for just a second, this seems to be getting at the fundamental kind of question about her, which is that she's undergone what appears to be a political evolution in that she sort of came further from the left and is now very, very much a centrist, perhaps the most centrist Democrat in the Senate. Is this inscrutable tension, does that sort of reflect a broader trend with Sinema? And do you think then that she actually opposes this, or she's just getting paid to oppose it in this case?
Well, look, I worked with Kyrsten Sinema back when she was a progressive state legislator in Arizona. This is 15 plus years ago. And she was doing good progressive things. And I think her political formula back then was that was the way she was going to rise. And the thing is that we have to understand that politicians are not, singularly good or singularly bad. They're machine inputs, as I put it. They're players on a chessboard. They have a political formula. I think what happened with Kyrsten Sinema is that Kyrsten Sinema started running for Congress after being in the legislature, realized she needed to raise a lot of money, saw her political formula differently, saw that her ascent was going to be about serving moneyed interests. And when she got to Congress, she started serving those moneyed interests. I mean, I did reporting on her in the predatory lending industry. And the point is that these people, they change. Their formulas change, and they tend that this is why there's the old cliche of going Washington. People get to Washington, they get immersed in money, and their old politics suddenly changes. And I think we have a tendency to want to believe that, well, they're good people, or they're inherently good people, or inherently bad people. Again, they're like cyborgs. They have a formula for how they get ahead. And clearly, whether I don't know what's going on in Kyrsten Sinema's head. She's a good person, bad person. All I know is that what she's doing right now is serving her donors in a way that's going to hurt lots of people, in a way that betrays her promises to her voters. And that is her political formula. I think trying to psychoanalyze why these people do what they do, as opposed to just looking at the hard facts tell the story of what has happened to this person, or at least what she is deciding is her way forward to be, to have the power that she wants.
Some Democrats in Washington are kind of more concerned that Sinema and Manchin will take down the entire package rather than being concerned about passing the reconciliation bill but not being able to get the pharmaceutical provision through. And they think that that's Big Pharma's strategy, that Big Pharma thinks that if the reconciliation package goes through, that they're going to be part of it. There's no way that it can pass, and they strip their role in it out. And so, therefore, their better play is actually to just destroy the entire thing. That was a part of the calculus in 2009 when the Obama White House just cut a deal with Pharma. Said, look, we want to do health care reform, and we promise we will not allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices, and we will give you a whole bunch of money if you just don't destroy our healthcare reform project. They literally cut that deal and wrote it down, and that was the deal. And so, if Sinema is doing Pharma's bidding, in some ways, it might be more likely that she just takes the whole thing down rather than strips the Pharma provision out. What's your sense of that dynamic?
Look, I think you're probably right. I think that the Obama administration had this theory, talk about political formulas, that they could somehow appease all of the interests in the healthcare reform bill and also deliver something that did something real. The problem is that ultimately you get to a situation that's more binary. Either we're going to lower prescription drug prices in this country and reduce the profits of the pharmaceutical industry, or we're not going to be able to actually help people pay their prescription drug bills. Like, that's just a binary thing, right? Like, there's no way to appease the pharmaceutical industry if you're actually going to lower prescription drug prices. That there's just no wiggle room there. And so I think the pharmaceutical industry senses that there's no real way to finesse this. There's no real way. There was one Amgen executive who was on their earnings call who said, a lot of the pay-fors, I'm paraphrasing here, but a lot of the pay-fors are predicated on basically savings in pharmaceuticals. And he didn't say this, but the point is that, yes, that's true. And so if the bills, some of its pay-fors are predicated on lowering prescription drug prices, if helping people pay for their medical bills is predicated on lowering prescription drug prices, and that's the big selling point, or a big selling point of the reconciliation bill, and there's no way to finesse that, then you're right. Pharma's strategy may be to just try to take the entire bill down, because there's not necessarily an easy way to kind of water it down with devils in the details kinds of ads that basically you have to destroy the whole process.
Speaking of Big Pharma, David, you also reported that Big Pharma bankrolled local disease-based foundations, and now those foundations are sponsoring ads thanking corporate Democrats for killing legislation to lower the price of medicine, including Congresswoman Kathleen Rice and Congressman Scott Peters. Tell us about that reporting.
Oh, this is just, it's so depressing. There are various local foundations out there in states and cities that represent or purport to represent patients with specific diseases. The Lupus Foundation is one example. A lot of these foundations get money from Pharma, the Washington-based lobby group that lobbies for the pharmaceutical industry's interest in Washington. And what we've seen is that the specific Democrats who have voted against their own party's promise bill provisions in the reconciliation bill to allow Medicare to negotiate lower prices for drugs, those specific legislators are now being thanked by some of these local disease-branded, disease-based patient advocacy groups, thanked for their work on prescription drug reform. So it's totally dishonest. It seems super corrupt. And by the way, it's super shrewd, though, right? I mean, pharma really has weaponized this kind of local stealth network to boost members of Congress who are doing the bidding of the industry. And it's really Orwellian, right? I mean, you're specifically thanking the members who are killing this bill. These ads are thanking these members who are killing this bill for supposedly helping patients afford prescription drugs. It's really, really gross. But again, it is really shrewd. It shows the kind of hardball tactics that pharma brings to the table and why pharma is such a powerful interest in Washington.
Yeah, weaponizing the Lupus Foundation to keep drug prices high is about as dark as it can get. David, thank you for your reporting. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we will have more Rising right after this.